Yeah.
Just in case. But we're talking
Yes.
about post-purchase, guys.
Yes, post purchase. Yes, yes. So, welcome everyone. It's third Thriving Thursday Live. We're here again with Tim and Addie, with Housemaster and Charlene. And it is Thursday Live, where we are moving along with this financial fitness and wellness and housing. And we understand that there are a lot of things going on out there. We want you to be able to take care of some of these things yourself when it comes to your house. It's good to be informed on that. But before we get started, if you haven't joined, join our community. If you haven't liked, please like, subscribe. You also want to turn on the notification. And those guys out there with the notifications, go ahead. I know you may be traveling there. You can go ahead and click over. You're getting a ring. Join us in, send us a message, let us know you're there, and continue to follow us on social media. But share this information, share and post so that we can reach a broader audience, so we can inform more, touch more, and bring more in our community so that we can help you thrive both as a homeowner, housing, and financial fitness. All right, Charlene, go ahead and greet our audience.
Hey, y'all. Good evening for our Thriving Thursday conversation. We're kind of coming to an end to our conversation this Thursday. But before we get to that, I'd like to introduce you newbies to First Home Alliance, who we are, what we do, where we provide the services, and how, if you continue to listen to the end of this conversation, how you can receive those services. So First Home Alliance, we are a HUD-approved housing counseling agency established by our president and founder, Mr. Larry J. Laws himself. He served our country for 25 years. Afterwards, he decided to open up the nonprofit because his mother purchased her first home at the age of 65. And so, again, that intrigued him. And here we are today. So, what is First Home Alliance mission? Our mission is to increase sustainable home ownership to low to moderate income family, along with serving our veteran communities. The services that we provide are pre-purchase counseling as well as education, which is a first-time home buyers class that we usually have once a month in the Northern Virginia area. We also provide counseling as well, one-on-one. We also help individuals with loss mitigation counseling. And so what is that? I own my home, but I am going through some things and I need somebody to advocate on my behalf. First Home Alliance, we will do that to help you what? Prevent foreclosure. So those are loss mitigation services. We also provide rental counseling, as well as debt budget management and emergency preparedness. Now, these services are provided in Virginia, Maryland, also the South Side of Chicago. But again, for you newbies and for our old heads, that means nothing to First Home Alliance. If you're located in the United States, we can touch you. And so, with that being said, listen to the end of this conversation so you can find out how you can get in contact with us if you need some of those services. Larry?
Thank you, Charlene. Thank you. All right. And so we're going to get into our conversation tonight. We have Tim and Addie here with us again, and they're with Housemaster. And so we're going to take another. Hello, Addie. Hi, Tim. Yes. And so, yes. And so if you guys did not come last Saturday, it was a great day outside there. Addie was there. Tim.
I was MIA, unfortunately.
Okay.
Tim,
I was going to say Tim was there because I talked to him last week. Say again, Charlie.
I forgot to say happy belated birthday because his birthday was the next day after our community appreciation.
Happy belated birthday, Tim.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Yeah, enjoy your support there. And
you could wish us a happy anniversary today.
Today's your anniversary?
It is.
Good. Wow. How many years?
35.
Woo, child.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a blessing.
Yes. We have a lot to celebrate, a lot to be thankful for.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you guys have been able to, because a lot of people, when it's those birthdays and anniversaries, they go away someplace. But you guys have been here to share that time along.
We're celebrating with you guys.
Yes. Yes. So I feel fortunate to be with you guys and share these times. So memorable moments,
Absolutely.
And yes. And so Saturday was a pleasant day. The weather held up well until after the event. And speaking of a season, I know everyone is some are battling with different seasonal allergies and things like that. But we also are with post-purchase and home ownership. It's a good time to talk about some of those things on the topic tonight. So, Tim, Addie, let's get started. Let's talk about the post-purchase.
So first, just wanted to just remind you where we were. The first week we talked about what is a home inspection. Then we talked about common issues that are found during home inspections. Then we talked about how it can affect negotiations. So now we wanted to talk about today was, what happens after you buy the house. And so the very first thing I wanted to talk about was just routine maintenance. HUD actually recommends that you plan and budget for anywhere from 2 to 4% of the purchase price of the house to spend every year on maintenance. Hopefully you don't have that come up that much maintenance to do every year, but you should save that whatever is left over on that. Routine maintenance, normally probably is pretty minimal, but you want to save up. You still try to spend, or if you don't spend that 2 to 4%, save that money because things come around. Water heaters, they last 10 to 12 years. They need to be replaced. HVAC systems, they last 10 to 15 years. Those need to be replaced. Roofs can last anywhere from 20 to 25 years typically. And so those big ticket items, they roll around every once in a while. And so just because you don't need to put 4% into your house this year doesn't mean you don't want to save that money, because eventually that big ticket item is going to come up. And so you need a budget for those things.
Tim, but also another way to do that is to have at least, because most first-time home buyers do not have that 2 to 4% availability. So what do they need to do? So we recommend for them to consider, for at least for the first year, to buy a home warranty, because that will alleviate any unexpected repairs that they might have to do. And it's less expensive than coming up, for example, on a $500,000 home. You have to have what? The 2%, that's what? Help me here with the math.
$10,000.
About $10,000. So, but if you have a home warranty, and for, let's say that the stove stopped working 6 months after you move in, with a home warranty, the replacement or the repair might be sustained by having a home warranty. How much home warranty does cost? I see anything from $600 to $1,000, depending on what you need to be insured.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, I second that. That sounds like a great idea. And I know individuals say, "Well, that may not be in my budget for home warranty," but of course, it may not be in your budget to replace those units. But it's that discussion to have around your purchase, and when you're talking to some of the parties that's involved in your home purchase, such as your real estate, your lender. Sometimes that's a way of maybe requesting some help, if you want to use that term, help, or maybe a gift or something of that sort. And so ask for it, ask for that, but definitely consider that is will be light on the cost of your maintenance if by investing in that home warranty.
The home warranty does have like a what you call it, a service charge, or when you put a claim. But on average, I've seen it that is depending, it doesn't matter what company it is, it varies between $95 to $135. And then what happens with the home warranty is then you can use that, if they cover the item, then you only have to pay, you don't have to pay for hours and parts if it's covered by that warranty.
Yes, that sounds good. And of course, it's good to if you're not good at reading and understanding the verbiage, just to get someone to go over that with you, to really explain, the caveats of the home warranty, what it covers, what it do not cover, if it covers, maybe some larger ticket items, and some that may cover. Some if it's due to negligence or wear and tear. So read those things in the home warranty, and get one that's going to cover the things that more than likely will happen. Some just to have one that's going to cover catastrophic things and not some basic things that could go out like ovens and appliances. Then if you're only covering the roof, then you may need one to cover a little bit more than that, because we do know those appliances and things do like to go out when they're, when it's unexpected.
When you purchase a house, you almost always, if you're getting a loan, you're required to have insurance. And typically, the insurance is what covers the roof and the structure and things like that from catastrophic problems. Most home warranties are for the smaller items in the house. They typically don't. I mean, some do, but most home warranties don't cover roofs, things like that. They cover all the appliances, all the internal little pieces that or maybe plumbing leaks and other things. Just depends on what you purchase. But read the fine print so you know what's covered and what isn't, and what your timetable is for when you can apply for those. Some home warranties will say you can't file a claim in the first 90 days. Well, that's a quarter of your time. But what they're trying to avoid is pre-existing conditions, and so they typically don't cover things that were broken before you purchase the insurance. Typically, insurance only covers things that happen after you purchase the insurance. So there might be some sort of a waiver period at the beginning where if you file a claim, they're going to say it's pre-existing. So you need to be cautious about some of those things. Sometimes my wife will tell you as well as that the home insurance will ask for a copy of your home inspection. We caution you about sending them a copy. If you have to send it to them, then send it to them. But I wouldn't offer it to them only if they're certain that they have to have it and they insist on getting it from you. Then you want to share it with them, so that they have all that information. But that's a lot of information in those home inspection reports that maybe you don't want them to have. So you might want to keep that personal if you can at all possible. So next we wanted to talk about is what is maintenance on a house. Typically, I mean, honestly, what we see is about 84% of the issues that we see during a home inspection were maintenance items that were deferred, and they were allowed to get worse and worse and worse over time, or something that you should have seen. I mean, it's always easier to caulk a gap between a window and some siding, but after the water gets in there and it causes damage, it gets more expensive. And it gets in there and damages the drywall, it's even more expensive. It gets in there and rots the wood and the frame and the insulation. Now you've got mold, mildew growth, you've got damaged wood, and it can be very expensive if you let small problems fester for a long period of time. So it's important to do routine maintenance. So what I wanted to do was kind of talk about the different seasons and what things were kind of come up. What was annual maintenance, monthly maintenance, and things like that. So the big season that really calls out for a lot of maintenance is in the fall. And the reason the fall is because that's when you're getting your big change from nice warm weather to colder weather. You want to make sure things are prepared for that long winter so things don't freeze and break. You'll need to winterize things like the hose bibs on the outside of the house. Those hose bibs, if they're still on and they're not winterized, they can freeze and break, and they can flood the basement, flood the yard. It only happens late at night when it's close to freezing temperatures. And what do you do first thing in the morning? You don't go look in your basement for a water leak. You get ready and go to work. So it might be a whole day before you get down to the basement and see that water leaks. Now you've got a flood down there. And so it can be very expensive to make that mistake. So before the first big freeze in the year, you want to winterize stuff. So what needs to be winterized in most homes? Almost every house, except for some super old ones, have hose bibs on the outside of the house or in garages or on balconies. You want to make sure those are winterized by turning off the water, draining the water out of them, and then leaving them that way so they don't freeze and break. So know where your hose bib shut-off valves are so you know how to winterize them. Some are self-winterizing, but even the self-winterizing ones, you got to at least remove the garden hose from it so all the water drains out of it. If you leave them all connected, then there's still a chance they can freeze and break. Gutters in the late fall, it's full of leaves from all the trees that are in your neighborhood. So you want to clean the gutters, late fall. So you probably want to do that once a year. If you do it too early, you wind up doing it multiple times. But if you wait too late, then it might be overflowing. But make sure by the end of fall that you have at least have one final cleaning to get all the leaves and stuff out of the gutters, so you have a good clean gutters for the winter and for the next year. If you have an irrigation system, those have to be winterized. Water supply pipes that go to a house typically go below the frost line. In Virginia, that's about 2 feet underground. Irrigation systems are typically about 4 inches underground. So they can freeze and break, and that can be an expensive mistake too. So typically every fall, you want to have someone come and blow air through your irrigation system to blow all the water out if you have one. It's sprinklers. And make sure that they're winterized.
Can I add something else on that in regard to the sprinkler systems? Most counties will send you a list of qualified people that can do the winterization, because sometimes the counties require that you send them a bill because of a backflow to for them to have that information that you're not contaminating your water when you.
It's typically done in the spring.
That's
in the fall, spring. You're winterizing it. In the spring, we do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry about
that. Also, if you have any plumbing in any unheated parts of the house, whether that's a utility sink in a garage or in a shed or something, you want to make sure all those are winterized or insulated so they don't freeze and break. If you have a heating system, this is the time of year that you want to get the heating system cleaned and serviced before the big heating season starts. If you have a pool, those need to be winterized before the winter hits, so they don't freeze and break. And just, all those things are just kind of, there's quite a lot that has to be done. But you just want to make sure that none of the exposed plumbing in the house is in a place where it can freeze and break and cause things to get worse over time. Drain systems, not so much, but it's the water supply system you want to prevent from freezing. And then in the spring, that's when we do the reverse of all that stuff. You put all that stuff back into operation. So you're going to turn the irrigation system on. And like my wife was saying, most counties in Virginia require that you send some certification back that says they check the backflow prevention valve on your irrigation system. And the reason is they don't want any contaminants from the water from the irrigation system flowing back into the house or into the public water system. Once the water gets out of the house plumbing system, sprinkler systems aren't very well sealed, and so contaminants can come back in through that system. And they want to make sure that once the water leaves that chlorinated, clean part of the water system, that it doesn't backflow back into it. So there's a special valve they make you put in place there, and they want to make sure it's working each year. In the spring, you also want to do the cooling system. You want to get in the fall, you do the heating system, get those cleaned and serviced. In the spring, you get the cooling system cleaned and serviced. Spring's a great time to do your first look around the outside of the house. You want to walk around and look for any gaps in any of the siding or wood trim or paint that's peeling. You want to caulk any visible gaps, replace any wood that's starting to deteriorate, repaint things that are starting to get worn before they get worse. If you paint them early, you can prevent all that damage from happening. If you wait till later, then you're going to be replacing wood as well as painting it. Downspouts, you clean the drains in the fall, but in the spring, you're getting all that rain, you're going to get all that water near the foundation of your house. Make sure you're extending those downspouts away from the foundation of the house. So many problems I see where downspouts are draining right next to the foundation, and if you leave them there 1 year, not a big deal, but if you leave them there 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years later, you could start causing erosion that can damage driveways, damage foundations, penetrate back into the basement or the crawl space or the other foundation elements of the house to cause significant damage. So it's important to make sure your downspouts are draining away in that heavy rain. And typically all they put in there is those little splash blocks, those little green splash blocks that are about 2 feet long. Those are okay, but I'd recommend you actually get extensions and get them much further away from the foundation of the house. You want to get them so far away that you can avoid any of that water flowing back towards the house. Check the ground slope around the perimeter of the house in the spring. Make sure that you've got about a 6-inch drop over the first 10 feet all the way around, so the water is naturally draining away from the foundation of the house. Don't let water pond up against the foundation of the house. If it ponds there for too long, it's just going to follow that foundation wall down to your foundation, and then that's when you start having problems with that getting into the house. Big hills.
Can I comment? Yes. Going back into the fall season, especially if you have rain gutters that are under. Nowadays, people put them underneath in the earth. If it fills up when you're cleaning your rain gutters, you need to make sure that the drain system completely is cleaned up too, because then that can back up and make a problem for not having a good flow of your water to go away from the house.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. And check any drains you have around the perimeter of your house. If you have window wells, they probably have drains in the bottom. You need to clean the leaves and debris and plants and stuff out of there. Make sure it's got good drainage in it. A window well is that area, if you have windows that are lower than the ground, they put these window wells around them so that it helps keep water from coming in the windows in the basement or in the crawl space or in the vents into the crawl space. If you have a subgrade exit from the house or a walk-up basement, you probably have concrete steps, and at the bottom of those steps, there's a drain. That drain, those drains need to be cleaned pretty regularly, but definitely in the spring, in the fall, get all the leaves out of it. In the winter, keep all the snow and ice out of it. In the spring, you want to keep all the rest of the trash and debris out of it, so those drain properly. Anytime those window wells or subgrade entryways those drains get clogged, then next thing that happens is water starts coming into the basement.
A good advice for that is to put a cover that is a plastic cover, so it will evade from, if you have a lot of trees and grass around, that to come in, because things that come into that drain, it will go ahead and first it in there, and then you can get things to grow, or have a small pond with some frogs. We have seen those. So.
Yep. And then in the summer and in the wintertime, in the summertime, you probably want to focus a little more on the outside stuff because that's the time you're going to be able to see it. So, make sure you're checking around the outside of the house as you're doing lawn maintenance. If you damage siding, repair it. Don't let it wait till 2 or 3 years later when the damage gets worse. In the wintertime, maybe focus on some of your indoor items. Get all of your other smaller appliances maintained properly. You got the HVAC system taken care of, but your water heater needs routine maintenance. So, you need to change flush the sediment out of the bottom of your water heater once a year. Even if it's self-cleaning, that self-cleaning mechanism just kind of swirls the water around a little bit more, but it still should get flushed once annually to help keep the sediment out of the bottom. And then there's an anode rod inside your water heater. Typically those last 5 to 7 years. Your water heater itself typically lasts, if it's electric, 10 to 12, if it's gas, 8 to 10. But if you replace that anode rod every 5 to 7 years and you flush the sediment out annually, you can almost double that service life. I see lots of water heaters that have lasted twice that long. And sometimes people just got lucky, but sometimes it's because people are doing the maintenance on it. So it's important to do the maintenance to help maintain those. The air conditioning systems, like I said, clean and service them every spring and every fall. That's the major service, but monthly, change the filters. Every time you change the filters, put a little bit of vinegar in the condensate drain and flush out any mold or mildew that might be building up inside there to prevent it from backing up. If your HVAC system has an overflow pan under it, consider, put a moisture alarm nearby. If it doesn't have an overflow pan, definitely put a moisture alarm nearby. Because the last thing you want to do is have those things back up and cause leaks in the house.
Yeah.
Especially when you have the system up in the attic. It's important that you have that overflow plan and the alarm, because the next thing that you see the next morning is it's water coming from the ceiling and you don't know where it comes from, and it's probably from that HVAC system that is in the attic.
Yeah, I got another question in reference to the hot water, water heater. I'm sorry, it's a hot water. The water heater. Is there any? Some individuals may have been told to turn the thermostat up and down on it. Is there any suggestion in reference to summer or winter in reference to moving the temperature on the water heater?
On the water heater, I don't recommend seasonal adjustments, but we do. The CDC actually recommends that you keep it below scalding temperature. So what does that mean? Scalding temperature is about 120 degrees. So get a thermometer out and measure the temperature of your water. You want to keep it at the spigots throughout the house. You want to keep it at around 120 degrees, plus or minus. Now, that will, however, that specific temperature setting doesn't kill bacteria. So the CDC also says, if you can, they recommend you actually add a mixing valve for the water coming out of the water heater so that it exits the water at the water heater 120 degrees, but that you actually turn the temperature up inside the water heater to 140 degrees. And the reason is it helps kill bacteria that might start to grow inside your water heater. So you want to keep the water temperature in the water heater at 140 degrees, but please don't let that go through the whole house at that temperature. Someone can get seriously injured, and it would be just a terrible tragedy to have a small child or a young child or an adult, or even grandparents or somebody get, because the very young and the very old are more susceptible to it. But you can get serious burns very quickly at 140 degrees. only turn it up that high if you have a mixing valve so that the water through the house is capped at 120 degrees. If you don't have that mixing valve, keep the water temperature throughout the house at 120 degrees. That's much more important for safety than the temperature of the water inside the water heater. You can clean the water heater if you need to. So if, let's say you do find out that you have some bacteria and maybe somebody got sick and you're able to figure that out eventually, you can have a plumber come in and clean the water heater, but you can't have a plumber come in and regraft skin on somebody after they've got a 3rd-degree burn from scalding hot water. So I don't recommend you set it seasonally, but I do recommend you adjust it to about 120 degrees maximum. And if you can, have a mixing valve and turn that water inside the water heater up to 140 degrees, but not through the whole house, only if you have that mixing valve.
Super. All right.
Tim, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
For your HVAC system, I know that in the wintertime, you're supposed to, or can you clarify, in the wintertime, you change it going a specific direction. I don't know if it's supposed to go up or
your vents in the ducts, in the air ducts.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the HVAC system. If you have a 3-story house, a 2nd floor, a 1st floor, and a basement, somewhere around where the air handler is, there's probably some dampers to help control how your air flows in the house. If you have dampers, you should adjust them for comfort. That's the primary thing. If it's a Rambler 1-story house or a 1st floor and a basement, it may not. The dampers are just for comfort, and you can only adjust the heat left and right. But if you have 2 stories or more, typically you have dampers that address it, one for the 2nd floor and then one that goes to the 1st floor in the basement. And if you have that specific type of setup, what we recommend is that in the winter time, you put more heat in the lowest levels of the house. And heat rises, and it will naturally rise to the upper parts of the house, and the upper parts of the house get more of the sun. So in the wintertime, you put more heat in the lower parts of the house, and then it will keep the house heated. In the summertime, the upper levels get super hot, and the underground, in the basement, it says it's protected and it's underground, and it's probably going to be a lot cooler. So you want to put more of the cooling in the upper levels. So you reverse it. So in the wintertime, you put more heat in the lower levels. In the summertime, you put more cooling in the upper levels of the house, and that will help balance it if you have one system and just manual dampers for controlling it between the different floors. If you have different HVAC systems on different floors, they're controlled separately. You just put them whatever temperature you want. But if you have one system that does multiple floors, like we have in our house, then you want to try to adjust the dampers so that it's seasonally to control that way. If you have electronic dampers and there's thermostats on each floor of the house, that's going to work itself out. Just turn the temperatures to where it's comfortable and it will adjust itself for you. But if you have those manual dampers, that's what we recommend that you do, is in the wintertime, more heat in the upper levels, in the lower levels, and then in the summertime, more cooling in the upper levels.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time in the basement. It's my office down here. So I'll have 3 dampers along this trail here. And so the wintertime, they're all open. I'm trying to get heat down here. But in the summer, I'll close 2 of them and push the AC upstairs. And
in our basement, we close everything almost all the time because it just gets it's so much better insulated in the basement that we don't need a whole lot of heating and cooling down there.
So it's like a refrigerator. Right
now. My basement is weird though. It gets hot. It gets warm in my basement.
In the summer?
In the winter?
In the summer, I just feel like, to me, it's not like what I recall from being younger where the basement was always freezing. At times, my basement is warmer than
maybe it might be that might be an indication of an insulation, some insulation that might need to be fixed. I don't know. That's a little unusual because normally when you're underground, it's going to be cooler. And so, but all houses are different. So again, the most important thing is adjust those dampers for comfort.
Got it.
But then there's annual maintenance. You want to make sure that you're, cleaning the water heater, like we said, every year. Clean your dryer vents. Dryer vents build up lint inside. They can become a fire hazard. Once a year, you need to clean the lint out of your dryer vent. If you've got the expertise and the tools, you can get a little dryer vent cleaning kit from Lowe's or Home Depot. It's got plastic, or a brush that you can put on a drill bit, and a flexible poles that you can push in there, and you can clean that out with your vacuum at the same time to get the dust and lint out. If you don't have tools or don't have that expertise, hire somebody. The Chimney Safety Institute of America actually has a certification for dryer vent cleaners. So we recommend if you're not going to clean the dryer vent yourself, hire a professional who's certified. And the Chimney Safety Institute of America has one of those certifications. So if you go to their website, www.csia.org, you can find local dryer vent cleaners in your area.
Can you say that website one more time?
It's www.csia.org. That's the Chimney Safety Institute of America, www.csia.org. If you go to their website, you can find certified dryer vent cleaners, and you can find certified chimney sweeps. Chimney sweeps was the next one I wanted to talk about. You want to, if you have a wood burning fireplace, you want to, and you use it regularly, or even infrequently, if you use it at all, once a year, you should get that chimney vent cleaned. They put brushes in there and they brush all the creosote out of that creosote is that black stuff that builds up the soot that builds up inside the chimney. And if you don't clean it out, it's flammable. It can start a fire inside your chimney that you might not even notice, and it could damage your chimney. Thousands of dollars in damage. I've seen some as much as $14,000-$15,000 repair bills from chimney flue fire damage that this owner didn't even know it had ever happened. So once a year, you should get the chimney sweep to clean the creosote out of your wood burning fireplace, and have them put a camera in there. It's not expensive. They just they have a pole and they just run it up through there, and they'll brush it first, then they'll inspect it with their camera and make sure there's no damage in there. And so, once a year for any wood burning or solid fuel burning fireplaces, if it's a wood stove, a fireplace, a pellet stove, anything that's solid burning wood appliance, you want to make sure that those get cleaned annually. That can be pretty inexpensive to clean. It's a lot more expensive to repair if you've allowed it to go for years and never looked at it.
We had a case where that happened, and when he was seeing the inspection, he saw some signs of stress on the system through the attic and the outside, where it showed that it was burning properly. And we recommended the gentleman to go ahead and consider having a level 2 inspection done, which is what they do. They go in, they try to clean it. They have to clean it first in order to see the flue, that's the channel inside the chimney. And then they found out that it was cracked, and it was going to cost them $14,000 to repair. Locally, the seller was very active, and they had never had put a claim in their insurance. They didn't know about it. They went and put a claim. The buyer got a brand new chimney. And it only costed $2,800 for the deductible for the seller to do that.
Yep. Other appliances in the house may need routine maintenance. Another one, think about your refrigerator. Especially if you have pets. A refrigerator is just like an air conditioner, only smaller. So it's a little tiny air conditioner attached to a little tiny box. So it cools the refrigerator the same way an air conditioner cools your house. It pumps the heat into the house. Well, it means there's coils someplace. And if you have pets, we lived in our house 10 years and never had any pets. We never cleaned the coils. Our daughter moved back in and brought a big dog and a cat with her. And sure enough, that first year, what a surprise. We learned the hard way that we had to start cleaning those coils annually to get all that hair and dust and stuff out of those coils so that the refrigerator would continue to work properly.
$181 later.
Yep.
And the refrigerator stopped working completely. So,
and it wasn't broken; it was just clogged with hair in the coils. So that's an important one. Dishwasher, garbage disposal. Follow your manufacturer's recommendations for maintenance on it. Most clothes washing machines, if you have an old one, you probably don't have this, but on newer clothes washers, they have a little clean out port on the front of a drain and a clean out port on the front of the unit that you can open and pull the pieces apart out of there and clean all the debris that might have filtered out of it to keep that stuff working as well.
And the dishwasher also has a filter in the bottom that if you're savvy about it, you can go ahead and take it out, and you should clean it at least once a year. If you put dirty dishes with a lot of solubles, that's where it goes. It has to go somewhere. It has to be make it smaller. So
Older dishwashers just had a screen in them, and those need to be cleaned periodically. Newer ones might have a grinder built into it to help to grind up that debris a little bit to help keep that to a minimum, but you should still check it periodically.
Because they have a filter that you can then get in there.
Yep. Garbage disposals, if you start to smell strange smells coming out of them, put some ice in there, let that grind some ice, or let it grind some lemon peels or orange peels. Those can help, get rid of any odors and things that are inside there.
So not put oil.
Yes, garbage disposal. Can you cover a little bit more on that? I've heard different stories on that. What can be put in a garbage disposal in reference to some of our garbage type things like bones and things like that? And also the maintenance on a garbage disposal. What are some recommendations on what not to put in there, and also how should we clean it?
Well, I'm not a big fan of garbage disposals because everything you put in there has to go down through your sewer line out to the public sewer system, and everything you put in there has to be handled sooner or later somewhere through the system. So I would minimize what you actually put in the garbage disposal as much as possible. You can put a compost heap in your backyard. That'll handle a lot of stuff. Try to avoid things that really hard, heavy bones. Definitely don't put stuff like that in there. Don't let any debris get in there. If you're running it and you're hearing a strange noise, wait till it turns off. Put your hand in there and pull whatever's in there out so that it doesn't continue to grind around in there. I've pulled coins, nails, bottle caps out of there. This was a house that was empty that people thought it was ready to sell, and like when you turn on the garbage disposal, it sounds like a bucket of change. It might be time to get some of that debris out of there. Mm-hmm. If you live on a septic system, I would definitely not recommend that you minimize what you put down the drain, and definitely what goes in the garbage disposal. But if you do want to have one, they make garbage disposals that are specifically designed for septic systems. Those have a tank on the front that you actually fill with an enzyme that helps pre-digest food waste before it gets into the septic system. That can definitely help a lot. But if you're on a septic system, even though they make garbage disposal specifically for that, the septic industry actually doesn't recommend it because everything you put in there eventually has to be sucked out and taken out. And so that's more of a longer term.
The pH balance on the septic. So, and also we do sewer scans, and we have finding out that sometimes from the house to the septic, it's being full with things that need to be taken care of, that is not going into the septic system. You had an example. If your
septic system's well designed, most of the stuff will make it out. But what doesn't make it out, it typically is grease, fat oil, and grease. And that can lead to some pretty bad backups and blockage in your sewer line. And your sewer line can be pretty significantly blocked before it actually fails on you. But it can take years to clog it up. But you want to avoid, putting fat oil and grease down your drain, because what happens is you put that bacon grease down the drain. It's liquid when you pour it down the drain, but 10 feet after it gets in there, it's reached the temperature where it's going to become a solid again. And it's just not going to make it all the way to the septic system or even the public sewer system, more than likely. And so I would avoid, any grease that goes, don't let that go down the drain. They're pretty good with most food materials you can put in there, but once it gets to bones and things like that, I would avoid those things as much as possible, because they're going to be a lot harder on your garbage disposal and a lot harder on the public system or your septic system.
Super. Boy, corn. I got beans. Fresh beans.
And pay attention to things in the house. As things break, address them early. Don't let them continue getting worse and worse over time. If you have a door that doesn't latch properly, it might be easy to adjust it and you can get it fixed rather than keep slamming it to try to get it to close properly so that you break it even worse. If you have doors that start to separate, we had this problem in we owned a house in when I was stationed in Hawaii, and the front doors, the panel started separating from the frame, and we didn't think much of it. I'll get to fix it. I'll put it off. I put it off and I put it off. Well, what happened was one day that front panel on the door just came off completely. Well, all that's left of a door once the front panel comes off is a wood trim that goes around the sides. And that it didn't take but about 2 seconds after that front panel came off for the whole door to disintegrate into a whole bunch of little tiny pieces. But if we had just nailed it and glued it, that was our front door.
What did you do?
We had to go get a new door immediately. What do
right
you do?
then and there.
Right then and there. There's no fixing that. Once it's in little tiny pieces, there's no fixing that.
Man.
At least
Mind you, this
I
was
wasn't
when
good
we
enough.
were in the military in Hawaii, so we weren't a home inspector. So
I mean, we just went to Home Depot and bought a door right then and there and put it back in. Oh my gosh, it was crazy.
Well, hopefully it was early enough in the day for that Home Depot was open.
Yeah, we were lucky.
I was gonna say, because imagine if that
But
came.
but just think about it. That little separation. Had we simply glued it back together and put some nails, some little tiny finishing nails in there, that door would still be there today.
See, procrastination.
We put off that maintenance, and it became a much bigger problem, and it became an immediate problem that there was no way we were going to bed that night without a front door on the house.
Yeah, see, that's what I feel like I'm learning as as a homeowner, that the procrastination costs you in your pocket. Like
It does.
really costs you.
and usually also another one that I want to emphasize, because this has an error, and we have seen this. If you on your outlets, if you constantly have an outlet and you see that there is some darkening,
Like the soot.
soot or something,
Like it's overheating, like it's either
it's
dark
like
yellow or
overheating.
black.
Uh-huh.
That's a serious,
And
significant
It's
issue.
important that if you see that, because usually you don't see it when the reaction is happening, because you put the outlet in there and then the whatever item you're putting into the outlet. You need to go ahead and make sure that look at the thing. Sometimes if you see that smoke and stuff, that's a sign that there's something wrong in there.
Or you
Either
touch
might
it
be
and it's
your
super hot.
item,
Or if you
that
touch
the
it, it's
item
super
that is
hot,
not
yeah.
working properly, don't have proper ground or something. So it's important that yes, it's out of sight, out of mind. Pay attention to it.
Yeah.
Because
If
can be
you've
a
got
fire.
lights that flicker, switches that don't work, regularly, that jiggle a little bit and the light flickers and things, get an electrician to look at those sooner than later. Don't let them sit around. Those can actually be pretty significant. My neighbor down the street is an electrician. He tells me a story. When he first started as a young electrician, he got a call from a lady that said, "Hey, the light in my kitchen isn't working. Would you come change the bulb?" It was the end of the day. He was really busy, and he said, "You know what? I'll just go and help her and take a look at it." And so it was the end of the day. He was tired, and he tried replacing the bulb, and it didn't change anything. So the next thing he did is he actually opened the scuttle entry into the attic and looked straight across into the kitchen where that light bulb was, and he could see the wood. What had happened was it was a junction box. It didn't have a junction box cover on it, and that junction box was right against a piece of wood. That wood was glowing red. It was about to catch into a roaring fire. Had he not come to change that bulb that night, that could have been a house fire that could have killed everybody in the house. I mean, it's a wake-up call. Even little things, burned out bulbs, switches that aren't working, anything electrical, have it looked at and make sure that it's the simple problem and not a more catastrophic problem. It didn't happen often, but 1 in 1,000 is all it takes for the house to burn down. And so you want to avoid all of that. And while we're talking about fire safety, make sure you're doing maintenance on your smoke alarms. Smoke alarms have been around since the 70s. And you know what? The death rate from fires hasn't changed that much from the 70s.
What?
And you know why? Because smoke alarms only last 10 years, and most people don't know to replace them every 10 years.
I was gonna say something.
8 out of 10 inspections that Tim has done, we find that the fire alarms are out of date.
If the house is more than 10 years old, so are the smoke alarms.
There is a certain culture that cannot hear it. Like when their battery goes dead,
That would be me, the male.
they're immune to it.
I'm immune to it. My wife will hear it, but I'm immune to it.
I sometimes get
You might be
calls.
related, Tim.
I get calls when I'm doing a home, scheduling a home inspection, and I can literally hear the buzzing of the alarm going in that house. And I say, "Ma'am, I'm sorry, but by the way, are you aware that your fire alarm needs to be replaced because it's
Or the battery's replaced at least because it's chirping.
I mean, seriously, I can count on my hand right now 3 people that I know that I hear the chirping when I'm on the phone with them. And I'll be like, "Hey, do you hear that?" "Yeah, I'm going to get to it." You said that 3 weeks ago. How is that not? That's like nails on a chalkboard for me to hear that. I like literally keep batteries just in case in the middle of the night it ends up dying and that chirping starts. Because I will get out of my bed and go to 7-Eleven.
Well, we had that happening to our thing, and it was that the fire alarms, for some reason, weren't talking to each other properly. So
we've had it a couple times. Once I don't know what happened. There was something. There was a brand incompatibility. We had to solve that problem, and it didn't raise its head as soon as we installed them. It took about a year later. They started not communicating properly. They started chirping all the time, and so we did have a problem with different brands. So if you have different, if they're hardwired, make sure all of your smoke alarms are the same brand because they won't communicate properly. Next, change the batteries. You should every daylight savings times check the batteries in your smoke alarms. They say that, and nobody ever does, but you really should check. If you have batteries, check them. If you don't want to do that, buy smoke alarms that have 10-year batteries. Then you don't have to check them every year. They may not last 10 years, but you don't have to check them every single year. But do check them annually and make sure they don't expire. If any smoke alarm sensors degrade over time. Some of them are actually a radioactive isotope. Americium-248. If you have an ionizing smoke alarm, that's what the sensor is made of. The same sensor that we have in the M8 alarm in the military is the same sensor in every smoke alarm and every ionizing smoke alarm, just calibrated differently. But they're really good, but they only work if they're less than 10 years old. Once they're 10 years old or older, they're not sensitive enough to give you enough time to get you out of a house before a fire can hurt somebody. Make sure they're in the right location in the house. If you have a vaulted ceiling, like you have in the picture behind you, you want to make sure they're within 3 feet of the top of that pointed area. It does you no good to have a smoke alarm that's 4 feet lower than the ceiling. It's easy to change the battery, but the smoke has to come down 4 feet to reach it. By the time that happens, your house is a roaring fire, and you don't have enough time to get out of the house now.
So it doesn't catch it as the smoke is going up?
No, it does not at all. And it would if it was directly over it, but you don't have your smoke alarm directly over the cooktop. You have your smoke alarm across the room near the ceiling. And so that smoke will go straight up, and then it will go across the ceiling, and then it has to come down to the sensor. So the smoke alarm manufacturers want them either on the ceiling at the highest point, or within 4 to 12 inches below the ceiling, not in the dead space in the corners, but down low enough that it can actually detect the smoke.
I learned something new. I thought when the smoke is going up, that's when it catches it. That's when
No. It's too fast. It's got to hang out there for a minute. And so if you're directly in the stream, it might catch it, but if you're in any place else, it's not. And so you got to have it at the highest part of the ceiling. If you have vaulted ceilings or trade ceilings, make sure that smoke alarm is in the upper part. I find even in new construction, I had a condo where they had put the smoke alarm 16 inches down from the ceiling. I said, you realize it's 12 inches, not 16. It says, what? They had them all in the wrong spot. They had to go back and fix all of them. And so it's important that and that's what the alarm manufacturer says, is that it's got to be within 12 inches, between 4 and 12 inches of that ceiling so that it'll detect properly if you put them on the wall. So if they're on the ceiling, just make sure they're not in that 4 inches, and make sure they're the highest part of the ceiling, within a certain range, so within 3 feet of that vaulted corner, if it's a vaulted ceiling, so that it works properly. Carbon monoxide sensors are also important. They also only last 10 years, but they don't have to be at the highest point of the ceiling. I have this argument all the time with people. People say, oh no, carbon monoxide rises or falls or whatever. The molecular weight of carbon dioxide is exactly the same molecular weight as nitrogen, which makes up 72% of the air. So it mixes uniformly. It doesn't rise, it doesn't fall. So you can put your carbon monoxide sensors anywhere. They can be high, they can be low, they can be plug-in, wall-mounted, ceiling-mounted, doesn't matter. Smoke only goes to the top part because it's hot and it only goes up. Carbon monoxide goes everywhere. And so you can put your carbon monoxide sensors everywhere. But change the batteries, make sure they're working, make sure they're less than 10 years old. If they're integrated with your smoke alarms, maintain them when you maintain them. The requirement for smoke alarms is one for every bedroom and at least one on every floor, and the bedrooms don't count as the one on the floor. So if you have a typical 2-story house with a basement, the second floor probably has all your bedrooms, so you probably have 2, 3, 4 bedrooms up there, then you should need one in each bedroom, and then one in the hallway outside the bedrooms as a minimum, and then
That's
one
a
on
new
the floor.
code. And then you contract when you have when you're buying a home, there is a specific contingency that is in the contract where it says that the seller is responsible to bring up to code those alarms to be in there. So can you explain that more?
So if you're buying a house in Northern Virginia and you use the standard Northern Virginia sales agreement, the law doesn't require this, but if you use the Virginia Association of Realtors, they use the standard Northern Virginia sales agreement, the seller has agreed to meet current requirements for smoke alarms. It doesn't say code. It doesn't say one in each bedroom. It doesn't say one in each floor. It says you have agreed to make sure your house meets current requirements. What are the current requirements? And you've got to be careful, because if it says code, then code only applied the last time you had a code inspector in there. So it doesn't say you have to meet code. It says you have to meet current requirements. And those current requirements is one in each bedroom, one outside of the bedrooms. And if it's a long hallway, it's got to be within eyesight of the doors to the bedrooms, typically no more than about 20 feet or so. So if it's a really long hallway or it bends around corners, maybe there might be 2 in the hallway. On each floor of the house, typically close to the stairwell, you're going to put one smoke alarm. And, in the basement, you're going to have, at least one smoke alarm. If you have a bedroom, it's going to be in the bedrooms and outside the bedrooms. But it's super important to have the right number of alarms in the right locations. Now, current requirements don't require they all be hardwired. If it's an old house, you can put in battery operated ones, and those work just fine. If it's a more modern house that has hardwiring, you've got to stick with the hardwired ones. Don't replace your hardwired alarms with unwired alarms, because that's less safe than it was originally designed for, and the hard wiring's already there. So make sure that you get those. If it's never been wired, you can put in ones that are wireless, so that if one goes off, it turns on all the other ones. So they do make wireless alarms as well. That's an upgrade you might want to consider. 10-year batteries, you have to change them. You might want to consider those as an upgrade. There's different types of sensor technology. There's typically ionizing and photoelectric. Generally, the photoelectric are a little more responsive to smoldering fires, and the ionizing are more responsive to fast fires. So in the United States, they actually recommend you have a mix of ionizing and photoelectric alarms in your house. In Europe and other places of the world, they actually recommend you only use the photoelectric and not the ionizing. I'm not sure which advice is the best, but definitely, you can spend a little bit more and get upgraded sensors, get them integrated, get them with 10-year batteries, get them wireless connections. But have them, if there's hardwired, make sure they stay hardwired. Don't put battery operated ones in a location that was previously hardwired, because it's just not gonna provide the level of safety you should have.
Quick question on the fire alarms and the carbon monoxide alarms. On the packaging, does it say the expiration? Where I, as an individual, how would I know when it's supposed to?
So that's an excellent question. If you take your smoke alarm down and look at the back of it, it should have the date written on it. Okay. Dates have been required on the back of smoke alarms since 1999 by the Underwriters Laboratory. So if there's no date on the back, it's possible that that's now a 27-year-old alarm, and you definitely should get those replaced. If it does have a date on the back, what they always tell you to write the date you install it on the outside of the alarm. I actually don't recommend that. I recommend you put the date of manufacture on there, not the date of purchase, or not the date of install, because the sensor expires after 10 years from manufacture, not from 10 years from the date you purchased it. And if you buy an alarm and you get it and it's already a year old or 2 years old, and that's not uncommon, because it takes time to get through there. They sit on the shelf at the store, they sit on the shelf in the factory, and they go through the distribution system. They've got to be replaced from 10 years from the date of manufacture, not the date that you installed them in your house. So I would recommend that it says it on the inside, what that manufacturer is. Get your pen and write that on the outside so you can see it, and that way you won't forget about it.
Good information. Excellent conversation.
And if people replaced their smoke alarms, it would be so much safer. About 5 years ago now, there were 2 fires in Washington, D.C. One had working smoke alarms and one didn't. And the one with working smoke alarms, the people got out of the house safe and in time. And the one without a working smoke alarm, people died. It's just such a tragedy.
Yeah. And data shows you're going to die, most likely.
It's so important to have working smoke alarms in your house. It's so important.
It's time to
Yes.
if you have more information, contact us.
That's good information. Now, this section right here, we need this whole series on post.
Well, I'm telling you.
Yeah, we do.
It reminds me of, I forget, I had a mild heart attack, and then someone told me there's no mild heart attack, but it was in 2008. I was pretty young, and I've really changed a lot of things since then. And I wanted to get off the medication that I was on, and I talked to a young doctor. She hadn't been in practice very long, and she probably didn't know how to answer it. I said, I want to minimize this. I don't want to take this. I said, do I have to take this one? Do I have to take it? She said, well, study shows individuals that take this medication live. Those that do not, they're passed.
Did she say those that do not die?
They die. That's my advice.
Make your own choice, okay? Choose wisely.
We spend a lot of money on doctors. You really should follow their advice.
Yes.
Choose wisely. She just gave you your options.
One last thing that I want to do in regard to the fire is if you should always have a fire extinguisher nearby, especially, or the blankets that they have nowadays. But on the fire alarms, on the fire extinguishers, they have an expiration date, and you need to know how to use it. They had YouTube. You can go to YouTube. People do not know how to operate a fire extinguisher. And there is a key to the madness. So please, if you have
if you're not sure if it's working, take it to the local fire department. They'll take a look at it and let you know. They'll let you know if it needs to be replaced or not.
Will they give you one?
I don't know. They might. They give some stuff away. That if you go to the fire, they'll give out smoke alarms. They'll give you the $5 ones, but those will work. They might give you
like as many as you need, or is there a cap?
Well, they might tell you.
It depends on the fire department and what they have. I can't speak for all of them. I do know that the one time I was looking for a smoke alarm, I went to the fire department and they gave me one for free.
Okay, well, I'm gonna try it. Yeah, y'all heard
them.
But
they're only going to give you the $5 one. If you want the 10-year battery and the wireless connections and upgraded sensors and integrated with carbon monoxide sensors, you might have to spend a few more dollars and get that one yourself.
But if you want to live, the $5 one, I think will.
The $5 ones work fine. There's nothing wrong with a $5 smoke alarm. They absolutely are better than no smoke alarm or an expired smoke alarm. Absolutely.
All right. All right, Tim and Addie, I want you all to tell our audience how they can get more information and how to follow you.
So if they want to talk to us about any situation or how to reach us to do a home inspection or pre-inspection or a maintenance inspection, here's information. This is our email, and you can either go tim.fisher@housemaster.com or addie.fisher@housemaster.com, and that's the office number. If you want to see our website, that's our website, www.housemaster.com/580, and we'll reach out. No question is a dumb question. Ask us, and if we can refer you to somebody else that have the knowledge, we will do so.
All right, super. And I want to say again, thank you for sharing all your celebrations with us this month, and also sharing your time and knowledge with our audience on home inspection. And of course, we're looking forward to more opportunities, and I think we got some events coming up, some workshops coming up. Charlene is going to give us the announcements there, and we'll look forward to seeing you in person again at our next workshop. And of course, our audience, there's Tim and Addie's information there. And if you just get a screenshot of that, but you can also call us at any time. They've been a community partner, outstanding partner with educating, empowering our community, and they do a super job with home inspection. So get their information and track and keep in contact. Thank you, Tim and Addie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to
Charlene,
see you guys.
All right, thank you. Charlene, go ahead and give us an announcement.
All right, guys, what we got coming up? We got our first time homebuyers class is going to be on May 16th. That's going to be located at the McCourt building, and that is in Woodbridge. So that's going to be on May 16th. Start time is at 9:45. May 16th, there are some seats open. We do look like we're headed towards the full class. So you might want to go ahead and go to Virginia Housing to register, or you can contact First Home Alliance. I think you can register with us as well. Again, that's May 16th. That's our next class.
All right, sounds good. Well, thanks everyone. We're on time, and of course, check out our website. Yes, you can register for any events there. We will get you registered. Just check out our website, firsthomealliance.org, for any of our classes and our one-on-one sessions as well for counseling. All those different areas that Charlene talked about. That's firsthomealliance.org. Continue to follow us on social media. We look forward to seeing you on Monday morning at 7:15. Yoga with Tiffy. Thank you guys for this evening, and we'll see you next time. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good night, Larry. Good night, Charlene.
Good night.
All right, bye-bye.
Good night.